Training a neural network is essentially a navigation problem. We are trying to find the absolute lowest point across a massive, multidimensional loss surface. The standard way to find that bottom is a technique called gradient descent. You calculate the slope of the surface at your position and take a small step downward. This contour map shows the path of those steps. If your learning rate is too low, the line hugs the surface, but the journey takes an agonizingly long time. If you force a larger step, the path bounces wildly, entirely missing the minimum. To train modern models efficiently, we have to engineer a better optimizer. We need to upgrade the math, step by step, until we build the industry standard, the Atom optimizer. We must rely on the math. Guessing a learning rate manually won't work when dealing with real-world models that rely on millions of parameters. This contour chart maps out a highly compressed steep valley. The perfectly bowl-shaped surface we often see in textbook examples doesn't reflect reality. Real loss functions have deep, asymmetrical grooves, exactly like this one. Along these narrow valleys, the gradients are extremely sharp. Instead of pointing straight down the path to the minimum, the slope pulls violently sideways. Plain gradient descent can theoretically navigate this terrain, but only if you keep the learning rate low so it doesn't crash into the steep walls. But we want the training to be faster, so let's see what happens if we manually increase that learning rate to force a larger step size. The model diverges. The steps become so large they launch completely out of the valley, ruining the training. Plain gradient descent traps us in a compromise. We are forced to choose between keeping the model stable and actually finishing the training on time. To fix this, we can stop relying entirely on the current slope. Instead, we track the path's history using a moving average of all our previous gradients. This is gradient descent with momentum. The equation blends our previous trajectory with our current step. Because steep walls pull in opposite directions, lateral forces are negatives of each other. By taking a moving average, these opposing forces mathematically cancel out, shrinking to zero. Meanwhile, the smaller gradients pointing forward down the valley center all move in the same direction, accumulating into a massive speed boost. With lateral bouncing dampened, our momentum trajectory shoots straight down the center, overtaking plain gradient descent. Momentum lets us safely bypass the normal learning rate limits. We take much larger steps without abandoning the loss surface. There is a second separate technique we can use to stabilize our path, called root mean squared prop, or RMSProp. Instead of averaging the raw direction, RMSProp tracks a moving average of the squared gradient. By dividing our learning step by this squared average, the algorithm automatically adjusts its scale. When the gradient is steep, the denominator grows, forcing a small step. Where terrain is flat, the step remains large. On this contour map, the red RMSProp line dynamically compresses its steps upon hitting dense terrain, keeping it incredibly tight to the valley floor. You might notice some erratic movement at the very end of the path. That late-stage instability doesn't matter, because we simply save the weights where the loss was at its minimum before the bouncing started. RMSProp succeeds by making the optimizer aware of terrain intensity, automatically braking when slopes become severe. We have two powerful mechanisms, momentum for speed and RMSProp for stability. If we merge them, we get the Atom optimizer. Here is the combined Atom equation. It takes momentum's moving average as the numerator, dividing it by RMSProp's squared average in the denominator. We add a tiny constant, epsilon, as a safeguard to prevent a math crash if the denominator hits zero. Combining these terms creates a problem. Moving averages initialize at zero, making early values tiny and biased. To fix this cold start, Atom applies bias correction. Dividing by 1 minus beta to the power of t inflates these first steps so the optimizer gets moving. As training progresses and the step count rises, that exponent causes the correction term to shrink. The math naturally fades away, seamlessly returning to the core equation. The name Atom stands for adaptive moments. It intelligently transitions from aggressive early corrections into highly stable long-term learning. To see why Atom is the default choice for engineers today, we can run a side-by-side comparison. This grid tracks plain gradient descent, momentum, RMSProp, and Atom, all navigating the exact same terrain. The black Atom line pulls ahead immediately, finding the minimum point significantly faster than the rest. This efficiency relies on a standard setup. Leave Atom's constants, beta 1, beta 2, and epsilon, at their defaults. They are mathematically optimized for massive datasets. By trusting Atom's adaptive moments to manage the direction and scale of your steps, you are completely liberated to focus on the one variable that matters. You only have to experiment and tune your learning rate to achieve perfect model convergence.